welcome to episode 3 of VR Dev Talk. I'm your host, Ken, and we're Fisto, and with me is my co-host, Big Squirmy. How you doing, Squirmy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I think the first thing I have to say is, how's your week going?
Man, you know, and I know yours is going just as good as mine. We got some big news to share.
Yeah, we do. We do. This is a great episode. We've got some big news to share, and later we're going to have a special guest. We're going to have Ge0rge from Monkey Mischief on. And for those of you who don't know, Monkey Mischief is an app lab game that blew up. And it blew up so much that this 14-year-old kid ended up with a giant 23,000-pound server bill from Photon that he couldn't pay. So we're going to chat for a bit, then we're going to get to Ge0rge. I think you'll find this one interesting. All right, Squirmy, the
Definitely.
big news. Fire away.
The hackathon, man. We
Yep.
we're both got invited to the Meta Hackathon, and we're gonna be it's 50 people from in North America, US, and 50 people in the EU going to Zurich,
Yep.
and
Zurich, Switzerland.
yeah, so they're gonna split everybody into teams of 3 to 5, and yeah, we're gonna everybody's gonna see what they can make with the presence platform, the voice SDK, using spatial anchors and pass through and all that good stuff. And I assume
Yep.
they're gonna have us using the Quest Pros for it, but we'll see. And then
That's interesting. The Presence SDK has a whole lot of things in it. It has body tracking, facial tracking, eye tracking, right?
yeah,
It has, I believe, voice recognition with Wit
yeah,
AI. It
yeah.
has speech generation, I think.
I don't know
Uh,
if it has speech
yeah,
generation. Does it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That might be part of Wit or it might not. Well, it's time to dig in that into that SDK, right?
I've used
Because
it. I've used it before, but I don't. They may have added it though.
yeah, what you've used the speech,
Yeah,
right? Is
I've
that
used the voice SDK. Yeah.
okay? I wonder if this is an updated SDK from what you've used previously. I
It could very well be
yeah.
because it's been a while since I've used it. So.
Yeah, I think they had their own internal for a bit, and now they're using Wit AI, and I'm looking forward to digging in on that. Pass through spatial anchors. We also have I forget what it's called, but basically the ability to map your surroundings, so you can build polygons around based on what's around you.
Well,
So
isn't that what the spatial anchors do?
um, I don't know. I got to get into that SDK.
Yeah.
I thought spatial anchors were different things. The ability to tag a location and say, this here is, I'm registering this and I'm always going to come back to it. And I think that's one part of it. But I think in addition to that, you can map out your world, which will allow object inclusion as well as objects to interact with your world. Like your characters can jump on your kitchen table and run behind a wall.
Right.
So there's a lot of exciting things, and I read the rules today, and I was going through the scoring rubric, and there's I believe 15 total points awarded in 3 different categories, and they are looking for different. That's
Yeah,
they
they want to see. Yeah, they want to see what you can make with it.
Yeah. One part of the rule says everything has to be your own work, and I don't know what that means for using outside assets, right? Things,
Yeah.
particularly things from the asset store.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not
So,
sure. I mean, normally in those kind of things, they allow that, but you just have to specify what was used that's not that you didn't create.
right. They do say it's okay to use something you've created or open source.
Right.
Okay, so we'll see
Or I
where
think
they.
it said something about a license if you have the license for it as well.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll have to go back through that and read those. So the hackathon takes place November 8th through the 11th in 2 locations, Menlo Park, California, and Zurich, Switzerland. I woke up one morning, I think it would have been Thursday morning. I
Yeah.
woke up and I stayed up too late the night before. I was a little grumpy. And I opened my email and I see, welcome. and you've been selected, and that is number one. I got included. Number two, Meta is picking up the tab. They're going to fly us out there, and they're going to put us up. And I booked last night, and Squirmy, you did too, right?
Yep. Got everything booked, and there's prize money on the line. So the first place winners get money.
All right, let's talk about that money real quick. If I have it, I believe it is for each team. There's a prize pool for each team. Menlo
Each
Park
location,
and
yeah.
each location. There's a prize pool where first place gets 15 grand. Second, I'm sorry,
25.
is that right?
I think it's 25, and then
Hold on,
yeah.
I'm going. I got to look this up. I don't want to misspeak here.
I don't remember what the other ones were. I remember.
Here
I
it
think
is.
first place, yeah.
Oh, first place at each of the locations is $25,000. Second place is $15,000, and third place is $10,000 for Zurich and Menlo. And there's an additional $25,000 for the global winner. So the first place of Menlo and Zurich will go against each other for an additional $25,000, split between 3 to 5 people on a team.
That's pretty good chunk.
It's going to light up. Let me be frank. That's going to light a fire under my ass. Okay.
That'll pay some server bills for sure.
Yeah. Right. I think I will tell you the most exciting thing for me here is working with other developers. There's a number of people from the Start Discord who are gonna be there. Right.
Yeah.
Do you have anyone in particular like you've talked to for 6 months and it's like you're finally gonna meet them?
I mean, I'm just excited to meet everybody. I don't really talk to any one person all the time in
Right.
particular. I just talk to everybody in there, and
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be fun to meet
What's
everybody, and then me and you will finally meet.
Yeah, this is the first time we'll meet in person. I'm looking forward to that, and I don't know how they're going to assign teams, but I believe team selection is done at the hackathon.
At the location,
right? So we'll see what that is. I wonder if the teams get assembled by specialties, or they do it randomly, or they allow us some input. I'm not quite sure.
I would think that, like, because on the application form it asked you what do you use, if you use like Unreal or Unity or whatever. So I would assume if there's some people that selected Unreal, that they would try to put those guys together, maybe.
Oh, right.
Speaking of Unreal, if anybody out there uses Unreal, the voice SDK used to not be available for Unreal, but as of V46 of the platform SDK, it is now available.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That backs up my idea that they did update speech, and they're using Wit AI. So those are just web calls. They do a real time recording and send the sample up to the server and wait for the response.
Yeah, and then all the machine learning stuff is done on the back end. So like you have to train it and all that. And but it used to be to where you couldn't just like, how like on your phone you could be like, "Hey Siri," and it'll answer you. It wasn't like always listening, so I don't know if it's still like that or not. Like you had to have some kind of input to tell it to start listening. So it may be different now, but
yeah,
I'm gonna fire it up today and see what they got now.
Okay. So I'm just totally excited about this, and I'm sticking around Friday. It ends Friday at noon. And I'm sticking around that Friday night, and I know you are as well. And I'm getting the sense there's a lot of Start developers that are also going to try to be there that Friday night. So I'm looking for it. My first thought is, great, we'll get together, we'll go out for drinks. Then I was like, what am I talking about? We'll get together and we'll get our hardware out and we'll build something. Right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe we can squeeze in a podcast episode out there while we're there. We'll see.
Well, my intention is I'm going to film it from my end, and you should too, and we'll put it together and do a YouTube video or something. Because
as long as there's no NDAs or anything that they
Oh
force
yeah,
us.
right. We'll pay attention to that, of course. But I think it's a pretty exciting opportunity for me to be part of this, and it hit me last night how incredible lucky I am I feel to be included. I wanted to do something like this for a long, long time. My kids participated in Odyssey the Mind as kids, and I always loved that. Hey, we have a limited time set, and I'm going in there and I'm going to try to be the best teammate I can be. I want to make sure I pay attention to, whatever the group decides to build. I'm going to, try to figure out where I fit in the best and the best thing I can do to, get us over the line. And
Yeah.
it's so rare for me to work or to speak to other VR developers, right?
Sure.
Much
Yeah.
less work with them. That, geez, I think this is incredible.
And it's basically only 48 hours, right? Because
Yep.
you know, I think it's gonna, I think it starts at 9, but then, they say we have breakfast and, they'll probably
Mhm.
go over everything. And then, so I would assume by like noon, that's when everything is gonna kick off.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna end on noon on Friday. So, um, yeah, I think so. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Now,
So,
were you a big sleeper? How much sleep do you need to function?
I mean, 3 or 4 hours and I'm good. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gone I've gone I think the longest I've ever gone without sleep is like 36, 38 hours or something like that. But
Oh, that's rough, dude. When you go that long, you're no good.
yeah, I mean, by the time you get to like 20 hours straight or something like that, it's like your brain's just mush anyway, and it doesn't pay to keep
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to really pay attention to that because, I want to make sure.
Well, and if we have, if we work it out amongst the team,
Mhm.
if we have 5 people, then we can have, a couple people go and take their naps or breaks or whatever at a time, and then they come back, and then another one or two go, and then that way at least you got somebody always working on it the whole time.
Yep. Yep. That's the idea. I'm terribly excited about it.
Yeah,
So,
man, it's
all
gonna be good.
all right. So, wait, what have you been working on this week? I mean, you're headed towards release, and how does this impact your release plans? You're trying to get something out by what? End of November?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna. I'm still waiting on the submission to go through.
Hmm.
I haven't heard anything
Oh,
back yet, so we'll see. I think I'll wait another week or so, and if I don't hear anything back, I'll ping them on it and see if they can see what's the status, But
yeah, right, right. So you're
eh,
talking about the App Lab submission you did.
yeah,
You're waiting on that.
yeah, no.
Jeez.
And they
Yep.
they say 3 days, but a lot of people have been saying 3 weeks, so we'll see. But
I,
I've been
hey.
just getting there, all the integration done on the because I've had all the mechanics done, and I got a lot of my art assets in place now. So now I'm just kind of finishing up with like the cockpit interactions and stuff like that. Like you know, I got switches now that I added to where you can't just fire your missiles. You have to use a switch and arm the missiles first before they're fireable, and
Yeah,
then if you have all
perfect.
all 4 of them armed, then all 4 of them fire whenever you hit the button.
Oh,
Uh,
perfect.
and then I
Yeah.
and then I added in just some UI stuff, to whenever you got a target locked or something like that, that kind of stuff.
Right. It's feedback.
Yeah,
Feedback. Feedback is important in VR. Just to know, oh, I'm doing something. I actually did something. I accomplished something. That's great. That's great. I had a good week working on my prototype. It's more of a shooter. It's designed to be. I really like the old school Doom Quake stuff, and I'm not quite sure it's been done properly in VR. And characters are great in VR. One thing about VR is it's lonely. There just aren't that many people in VR. There aren't that many, fleshed out characters, and you know, uh, sometimes there aren't even great enemies. So
yeah,
I spent the week and I integrated Emerald AI for my enemies, and I have a couple of good enemies there. It's an interesting package, and it's a good way to get, I think, quality AI into an app quickly. It I do have some ideas for specialized AI that the package doesn't support, and I think I'm going to use two different systems so that I can use some. Emerald AI is nice and solid and has a ton of features. And so I'm going to use that part of it to get it in the app quickly. And then I have some different ideas for enemies that haven't been done before. And VR allows interaction with the enemies to be able to grab and throw and that sort of thing. And I want to have that. And Emerald AI doesn't really support that in VR yet. It's still, an asset for pancake games.
Sure, yeah.
There's a way to do that, but I'm not sure I have time to flesh that out. And I do know the developer for Emerald AI is working on Puppet Master integration. So that's going to be a big deal. Right now, the character's nav mesh driven, so you can't really pick them up and throw them around. So we'll see what happens there. As always, I'm using Hurricane Hexabody. I just love the Hurricane and Hexabody combo. I set up VRIK, and my mantling is nice and smooth. I can jump. I feel like I have the freedom to move around. That's going to be important as the enemies get added. I'm hoping there's going to be a lot of forward motion, and there's going to be a need to move quickly because of the locomotion of the other enemies.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So, all right. And I think it's time to get to our guest.
Yeah, let's get into it, man. And I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yep. All right. As always, let us know. We love the feedback. Thanks very much. Hi, folks. Welcome back to VR Dev Top. We've got an exciting episode for you today. I'm Ken Fisto, and I'm here as always with Big Squirmy. How you doing, Squirmy?
I'm good.
All right. Well, let's get right to it. We have a fascinating guest today, Ge0rge from north of London. His game, Monkey Mischief, is blowing up on the App Store and App Lab, and he's got a fascinating story to tell us about the excitement and the perils and pitfalls of developing for App Lab. Ge0rge, welcome.
Hello. Should I just go straight into it?
Yeah, Ge0rge, tell us just a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into VR? What are you doing? What motivated you to do this game? And then let's hear the chaos.
Okay. So I'm just I'm just the average boy. I'm like 14, just an average boy in school. Like I enjoy computers, and I always have enjoyed computers and everything to do with it, and I'm not very sociable, so that probably helped with my situation. But so I have a lot of time on my hands,
right?
And I thought I should put my time into something. So I thought that Ge0rge was a really fascinating game, and I wanted to expand from it. So I started off with Monkey Mischief, and it just went really well.
Yeah. Okay. So Monkey Mischief, it's kind of a Ge0rge clone. It's Unity, right?
Yeah.
And did you start with any movement scripts, or did you do it yourself, or what happened there?
Originally, I made my own, and then because I didn't realize that the Ge0rge movement was open source,
right?
So I made my own, and it wasn't very good, to be honest, but it worked. And then I found out that the movement was open source, so I just began using that and Normcore originally.
Yeah, my game, Flying Squirrel Chase, I chose Normcore because it just seemed like the simplest thing to get up and running with.
Yeah.
Was the game already live whenever you had switched inputs of the movement, or was it still in the development phase?
Oh no, when I made the movement script, it wasn't up, and it was still in development, but I did release it with the Ge0rge movement and Normcore, and then slowly switched over to Photon.
Okay, so walk us through this. You have your dream. I'm making a Ge0rge clone. I love it. I got it working. Now it's time to push it up on App Lab, right? Is that your first released App Lab? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So it gets on App Lab, and what happens? Does it sit there? Does anybody notice it, or do people jump right on it?
So when we first released the app lab, we had like, I think around like a couple hundred players because we had previously released a side quest.
Oh.
And then all of a sudden the player base just boomed and just it exploded, and because most of our developers are like quite young, so we didn't really know what to do. And we just kind of just kept going as we were and didn't expect anything bad to happen.
Right.
But then eventually it obviously did. And
Oh, well,
fell
let's
apart.
see. All right, so let's talk about the bad that happened. All right, walk us through that. What's that like? Okay, so I want to. When did you first know something bad was going to happen?
When the player base got really, really big, and when it started to get to like 10,000 players, and then to 50, and then to 100, I was like, oh, this can't be anything good, to be honest. I should be really happy about it, but I'm just so worried.
Right.
And then one day I was just gonna work on the game, and then all of a sudden Photon had emailed us about a bill, and I was just panicking. I couldn't breathe. It was just so hard.
Tell us about that. Just very briefly explain what's bad going on here and what this bill is about.
Okay, so the bill was about traffic, and we had overused our traffic by, well, we had like, it was 140,000% overused, and that's not very good at all. And so then I was like, this might be okay, maybe. And then we got the CCU. We only had to pay like 900 for overusing it, so that was all right. But the traffic,
900 pounds.
Yeah, and then for the traffic, it was £23,000, and it was just shocking to me, to be honest.
Wait a minute. So how did you get the email? Did you wake up one morning and check your email and see this bill for what, 23,000 pounds?
Yeah,
in your email?
It was just woke up and it was any normal day, and I was just gonna work on it again with my developers. Then I saw the bill and I was just panicking, and I didn't know what to do at all. And I tried contacting them, saying I don't know why this has happened. Why isn't there a cap on the traffic? And I just thought it would just stop using it, but it just kept going and going and going.
So what did I guess first, how many other guys you got working on it with you, and what did they say?
They were all like shocked. I think some of them didn't believe me, and a lot of people in like the community thought that because eventually we had to try and make the money somehow, and they thought we were just being money hungry. But it was so hard to like prove to people that we genuinely got a bill for £23,000.
So at this point, you wake up, you get the email. What's the first thing that you do? Who's the first person you tell?
I was so scared, and I wasn't sure if I should actually tell anyone.
Right.
I just went downstairs and told my mum, like, don't hate me, but I might have just received a bill for £23,000. And she was like laughing at first, and then when she realized, and then when she
thought it was a joke, huh?
Yeah, and then my parents were like really like scared, and they were like, "We can't pay this off. I don't know how you're gonna do it. We don't have enough to do this." And then they just started contacting them, and yeah.
I'm sorry. They just started. Who just started contacting who?
My parents started to contact Photon about the whole situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And okay, so you tell your parents, then you go tell your team, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, let's break this down a little bit about why this is happening. Normally, you use Photon, you get a certain number of players, and you pay for your bandwidth. The problem is, a bandwidth bill, even if it's not £23,000, it can be 500 or £1,000 or whatever, right? With normal usage. And the way people offset that, your game is free, right?
Yep.
The way developers offset that is with in-app purchase, IAP. And at this point, you have the game on the store. It's using bandwidth. There is a certain allotment per month, right? I think you pay probably what, 60, 70 pounds to use it per month for, some limit, right?
Yeah.
But you've blown past this cap, right? And you have all these. Where do these players come from? Did they come from YouTube or TikTok, or how did they find you?
For like the previous players, like before we released the App Lab, or when we had just released the App Lab, like some new players were like posting videos on TikTok or it was like Styled Snail on YouTube, and it just started to blow up extremely from there. And then more people would post videos on it because they would see the other YouTubers doing it or other TikTokers doing it, and then it would just keep growing and growing and growing, and we couldn't really put a stop to it.
So at the height, what would you say your highest and current user base was?
Well, in one day we had like 62,000 players on, and then at once at our peak we had 3,000 something all on at once trying to get into the server, and that's where problems came.
Oh wow, yeah.
And that was like, what problems are we talking about? People not being able to connect, slow response?
Yeah, so people not being able to connect to the servers, and then a lot of bugs starting to arise because servers were being overloaded, and just I can't even explain it. Just so much was happening all at the same time, and we just didn't know what to do.
So before the bill, did you have in-app purchases at that time, or it wasn't until afterwards, and then you were just trying to catch up to deal with the bill?
So before the bill, we had just introduced in-app purchases, so we weren't making as much to pay off the bill.
Right.
But as we were in our peak, it started to like rise, and it was like, oh, okay, this is kind of getting okay. But we started to like, we wanted to pay it off as soon as we could, and the only way we could do that and also stop the traffic from rising anymore was to make multiplayer an option, and people had to start paying for it, which is when a lot of people started to get turned off by the game.
Sure. You had to throttle usage. You can't leave it open. Now, any VR game, VR is going to use a lot of networking traffic, right? We're syncing hands, and you have audio chat, right? VoIP.
Yeah.
And VoIP is going to use a lot of data, and because that's an end-to-end problem, right? That if I speak, it goes to the server, then the server has to transmit that data to each of the clients. Now, any VR app is going to use a lot of data, but your app here is probably using way more data than it needs to. What's going on?
Some things were being called every single frame, I think, if I can remember. Right. And that is not very good and really didn't need to be calling it every single frame. And there was just many other things that could have been reduced, like with the cosmetics, because it was running it every single time someone clicked it. And also with the private rooms, it was running so much with the network, and it wasn't doing us any favors, to be honest.
Right. And now, I mean, the way it's set up, you really can't measure. Are you able to measure the traffic yourself? Did you know this thing was using so much data?
At the time, I didn't know what was using so much data. I thought it was just because so many people were online. But
Right.
I thought that it would just... I honestly can't even tell you. It was just... I just thought that it would all be alright and nothing would come of it. But obviously, I was wrong.
Yeah. So, all right. Now you have this thing. You have a big bill. And at some point, you figure out you're using too much data and that you have to fix it. Right?
Yep.
So what do you do?
So we had to start charging for multiplayer, and then we also had to start... But that cut down on the amount of people on at a time, but that also like affected our player base, and also who was people that were buying more and more. So it was kind of beneficial, but not entirely. And then just over time, we kind of just lost motivation. and then that kind of affected how much we were earning. But then eventually it kind of spiked again, and we just earned so much money, and we could pay off the bill. Like we could pay it off like multiple times. We were completely fine. But then Photon got back to us and said that it's all right. You don't need to pay the bill. We know your age. We know how this is affecting you, but you violated our terms, so we're gonna have to ban you from our services, which wasn't very good.
Right. So, all right, Photon gets back to you. They realize they're dealing with a minor, and the chances of collecting on that bill are pretty small, right?
Yep.
And although at this point you are making enough to cover the bill.
Yep.
Is that right? All right.
Yeah.
So they're going, but you did violate terms of service, which is understandable. Right. And what is that violation? Was it a bandwidth violation, or is it because of your age? Or
it's because of my age, and I had to be over 18, which I didn't see anywhere, and even my parents couldn't find anything on it. But apparently that was under their policy, so
Yeah.
we
So your
couldn't use
parents,
it.
I guess, would have had to set up the account for you to use, right?
Well, we couldn't really just do anything, and we're still contacting them at the moment about how we can use this and how we can keep using them in the future. But,
right.
But after that, many fan games lost Photon as they were getting banned for being a minor. So, which affected so many fan games, and that made Monkey Mischief's reputation even worse than it was already. Especially as many people didn't really like the game at all beforehand. So that means that people were like leaking tons of our assets, or just genuinely just hating on the game.
Right. And where were you getting this blowback from?
Mainly other creators, and also just Ge0rge players and their community who just didn't like the game, and just saying that Ge0rge was better anyway. I don't know why they even did it. Just stuff like that.
And where are they sending you email? Are they putting this in reviews? Are they hitting you on online forums? What?
It's mainly through reviews, videos as well. You can see a lot of videos about people saying about Monkey Mischief and how it's like downfall, but also on videos like TikTok, just people saying that like the game's just rubbish in general.
Oh, hey, all right. How's this make you feel?
Well, it's obviously not. No one wants to hear that about their game, but at the same time, I was so demotivated that I didn't even like the game, and at this point in time, I generally don't like the game. I'm sick of it, and I sometimes wish I never made it because it just causes me so much stress. It's always been like the one biggest thing I've ever done, and it would kind of suck if I never even did it, and it'd be like, what's the point if I didn't do anything?
Well, it's a learning experience. That's what you need to take it as, I think.
Yeah.
And then use what you learn to not make the same mistakes with your next game, right?
Yeah.
So that said, I'm assuming the game is not live right now.
The game is still live, but the multiplayer's still extremely limited, and we're just redoing it all, and we think that's the best way to go. But we've redone it many times, and then people are just losing faith because of that. But hopefully we can do it way better, and we're gonna take an entirely different approach to what we usually do.
So are you guys gonna stick with, or I guess you're not sticking with Photon right now, right? Or you still are with Photon?
We don't know if we're gonna stick with Photon or not, but
what is the app using right now? The app's live, right? And it has multiplayer. So what's it using?
Yeah. So one of my friends who's at the age can use it, or still has their account. They have been using their app IDs at the moment. So
yeah, that sounds fair. I mean, you know, as far as the 14 and not being able to find that in the contract, you know, most countries have an age of majority where if you're below the age, you can't legally agree to contracts. And that is not something that needs to be specific to the contract.
Yeah.
You know, that's just how the law works. Now, I just want to double back to, you know, you're sorry you did this, and I'm sure it was just horrifying, right? To have the conversation with your parents and being in way over your head. But I'm gonna guess this is by far not the biggest thing you're ever going to do. You're 14 years old and you did this, and you put out a game with a team, with a small independent team, and you got thousands and thousands of users, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge achievement you should be proud of.
Huge, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is it Squirmy, you know what it's like to get anything out of the my god, it works on my machine.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's a grind, man, to get users. So it's an achievement. There's a lot of people that would kill for that, you know.
Yeah. And you know, as far as the internet can be a tough place with you know, that's I don't have anything good to offer there. That's a whole you know, that I feel for you. That has to be tough to hear people talk about your work, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, because I was given into it, it wasn't really being beneficial for the game, and we are trying to bring it back as any way we possibly can, and just make it something that is an enjoyable experience, and just see if it does work or not.
Right. Now, is this your only project? You got something on the horizon here, like your dream project?
This is really my dream project, but at the same time, if I don't really enjoy it, then I want to keep redoing it until I can. But we were going to begin working on a different game, but because we have the community all pre-built for the other game, we feel like we should keep giving updates for as long as we can, and just take advantage of it whilst we can, and gain as many players as we can.
So I'm assuming you still have a pretty good sized community in your Discord server and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We've got like 2,000 something or 3,000. I can't remember the exact number, and we still have around like 4,000 players per day or over. So even at our lowest, we are still doing quite well.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And there are people who like the game. These people like the game.
Yeah. And we want to provide for those people, and we want to keep doing better. But we also want to provide better on what they enjoy the most. So that's what we're going to be doing in the revamp. We're just going to provide better on what they enjoy the most within the game at its current state, and just keep doing better if we can.
I think that's admirable. It would be, you know, you're in an uncomfortable position, right? And it would be easy to say, I want out of this. I'm removing the game from the store. I'm done with it. I'm not doing this anymore, right?
Yeah.
And in some ways, your life would be easier if you did that, right?
Yeah, completely would be so much easier. But then I'd also be very bored without it.
Yeah. That's the spirit, right, Squirmy?
That's it.
Yeah. That's
So what do you? There's some people out in the community, like you said, that they kind of frown on, you know, the gorilla tag clones, quote unquote. I mean, what do you say to those people that they're like, oh, you know, gorilla, it's just a gorilla tag clone, or it's just, you know, what do you say to that stigma?
Well, if you enjoy the game, well, it's your opinion, it's your preference, if you prefer different games or not, and I can't really force you to enjoy my game, but if you do you have a fun experience whilst playing the game, well then at least we're doing good at what we're trying to do. If not, then please tell us how we can do better. And we are trying our hardest, especially with our age. We are, and me with like, I have no prior. I'm not very talented with the like all the coding at all, but I still try and do what I can for the game as well as I can.
That's amazing, man.
I'm going to argue that the talent is not something that shows up overnight, and it's a result of doing something over and over and over again until you improve. And a lot of people stop when they realize they suck and they're uncomfortable in sucking. So
Yeah.
when you suck, you have a choice. You can stop what you're doing, or you can continue to do it and get better, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I know you have the age thing going for you, but there's you know, that gives you, that presents some hurdles, but
But you also have the time too, so you know.
yeah.
If I can go,
Yeah.
if I can go back to whenever I was 14 and get started, you know, I'd probably be
Yeah.
10 times better off than what I am now.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You're like Squirmy said. You know, we don't have that luxury. We have families and jobs and stuff to do, and you know, responsibilities. Like he's saying, to be 14 and be in this position, it's, you know, the world's wide open for you here.
100%. And I want to do as much as I can whilst I'm at this age, and so I'm set up for the future. But at the same time, it's about the motivation to keep doing it. And if I don't enjoy this, then maybe I should look into something that I probably do enjoy more.
Absolutely. What's your future look like? What do you think you're going to be? You know, what are you going to go to school for? Are you going to be a programmer? Are you going to be a doctor, or what?
I've never want to think about my future, to be honest. Everyone's always like in my school, like always talking about like what they want to be in the future and like what they aspire to just be. But in my opinion, I don't like to think about it. I want to I want to basically stay young forever, and I don't want to ever like be older than what I am at the moment. But I have to always think that is going to come around eventually, and I'm probably going to have to start taking things more seriously. But I can't. I've never even thought about what I want to be when I'm older. Probably I would want to keep doing what I'm doing at the moment, but
Right.
I honestly couldn't think.
Right. Can't think what that is. You know, Squirmy, back to Squirmy's question about, you know, being called a Gorilla Tag clone. Like my game, Flying Squirrel Chase, I get that all the time. And my mechanic, I didn't use the Gorilla Tag movement code. I used the Hurricane Hexabody controller, and I modified that so you don't have any legs, and I added flap to fly and a gliding mechanism. So you do walk on your hands, but you fly around. And one of the reasons I did that was playing Gorilla Tag. Like I've always been inspired to make games based on games I love playing. Right. So if I go to a game and it excites me, it's like, this is cool. The movement of Gorilla Tag is fantastic. Right. We've never seen anything like it. It's like, oh, this is new. Right. And the ability to walk around on your hands in VR frees you up from the static. I'm going to stand here. I'm going to point over there and teleport over there, or whatever, you know, slide around locomotion. Right. And so you played Gorilla Tag. You said, wait a minute, this is fun. Right. And so you were inspired for your game. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Well, then, and that's how most games are made anyway, right? Like,
yeah.
is Fortnite a clone of PUBG? Is PUBG a clone of DayZ? You know, it's all
Yeah.
subjective. Is you know, it's like you know, it's
And any game I ever made was, you know, in response to a game I loved playing, and because I wanted to add my own spin to it. right? It's like, I
Yeah.
love that game, but what if I do this? So for me, it was Gorilla Tag. I want to do Gorilla Tag, but what if you could fly, right? And that, I think that's how all good games start, right?
I say as long as you're not ripping assets from another game and putting them in yours, and you creating everything on your own, then it's not a clone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's similar. It's inspired by it, but it's not a clone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. All right. All right. So what next? It's on the store. You've taken this abuse for it, but you're in the trenches. You're a little demotivated, right?
Yeah.
What's
It's hard to just keep it up, and especially with all the hate, sometimes it just brings you down. But I always want to push through and keep doing it, but it's sometimes too hard. But
yeah.
I love this project that I'm doing, and if I could make it better, then obviously I would want to.
Yeah. Hey, we talked about the hate, but let's talk about the love, right? You
Yeah.
have this Discord community, right?
Yeah, and there is a big community for the game, and people do really love it. And I just want to provide for them, and want to just keep bringing out updates for those people who do love the game and potentially new players
Yeah.
for the game. And we want to bring out an update before Christmas, so because all the new players will be coming on around that time, and we feel like that's the best time to like gain a new player base as well. So if we can do that, that would be great.
Yeah, from my experience back in the App Store days, doing apps for mobile phones, holidays are phenomenal. People are around and they're ready to play. It starts in the U.S. at Thanksgiving, right? That's when there's a big uptick in sales. People buy them to get ready for Christmas, but some people use them earlier than Christmas. So anytime you see a spike, anytime you see a major holiday, there's that spike in users, right? And Christmas Day last year, there were a lot of Quest 2s bought. You know, it's the price point. Back at that point, you could get a Q2 for $300, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good price for a family Christmas gift. So I expect to see a lot of brand new Quests. We're going to see some Quest Pros, but not nearly. Most of the sales are going to be Q2s, so Quest 2s. And back from my App Store days, holidays are phenomenal. Getting up on December 26th to see revenue numbers is a big deal.
Yeah, it's like the game was made in like the summer, and I've never experienced how good that could be yet. But I feel like, especially with the stats last year for other games, that Christmas time especially is the best time for games to like take advantage, and not in a bad way, but just get as many players as they can and revenue and all of that.
Right. All right. So now you get this newfound fame, a bit of infamy. You're working hard on it. You do have IAP in there, and you made a little money. Is it like you're a 14-year-old kid, you know? So now you get some cash. What do? Do you go out and buy yourself a nice rig? Do you buy more headsets or what?
Well, obviously, when you get that much money at an age like mine, it's like shocking. And obviously, I wanted to just treat myself a little bit, but at the same time, I have to save a lot of it, especially with if we can get back Photon, we have to save it a lot for the Photon, so we can keep expanding as well, and just invest in new things. So,
Right.
mainly a lot is saving.
Did you treat yourself? Did you I know I need this money for these other things, and I'm sure there's taxes and whatever you're going to have to deal with here, but is there anything you said, all right, I'm getting this?
I had to get a couple of things. I had to get a couple of like Lego sets just because I find them really just funny. Some people at my age would probably buy other stuff, but I don't know. It makes me feel young, and I just enjoy it.
That was your big purchase, some nice Lego sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. All right.
So
All
what are
right,
you
sport.
gonna? So what are you gonna do? Anything you want to? Anything you want to talk about for the holiday update? You know, are you gonna have
Well,
any new game modes, or just gonna be cosmetics, or what do you think?
just before this, we were just talking about how we can reinvent. So, reinventing is so much. We're gonna have to be thinking about that more than a Christmas update. But if we release it around Christmas time, then we're gonna release it alongside with a Christmas update. So it's sort of we're like at the moment planning on like an open world if we can, and like different boss fights, hopefully. So,
Ah.
but we'll see if that comes along well. But
hmm
So
we
Is that
just
so I assume that since you've been moving along, you guys got the I guess the bandwidth issues figured out and the netcode stuff. Yeah.
yeah, hopefully we do have that. We haven't really tested it properly since that happened, we have had like the servers mostly down and
Okay.
or less active. But I think that we will have it down by the time we do release it.
And I'm
And
sure
if
I'm
we
sure you'll
can,
be watching the dashboard like a hawk, right?
yeah, yeah, it's never gonna leave my sight. I'm always gonna have to be like staring at it every 2 seconds.
Wait a minute. How often does that dashboard update? Is that near real time or is it daily for bandwidth usage?
Yeah, I
I think you
it's
can get
like
hourly updates on it.
yeah,
I'll pull it up.
I think it's hourly updates, to be honest.
Okay.
So it takes some time for data to come in, so we have some time to test it and all that.
Yep. Yep. My game went through something very similar. I put my game out and put it on App Lab, and nobody noticed. I didn't really promote it, and it was out there for maybe a month or two before I even noticed anybody was in the game. Right. And I popped on. I was like, wait a minute, there were people here, right? And at that point, I didn't have IAP, and I was on Normcore's, low end plan, which is $65 a month. You get 3 TB, which is normally that's great for development, and it will handle a certain number of players, right? So I'm like, $65 a month, I'm golden. I got featured on App Lab on SideQuest for a 1-day feature. And things blew up for me, and it hit a popular YouTuber, Ge0rge, and right about that time it hit on TikTok. And
Yeah,
my servers were overwhelmed, and I had thousands of people on, and I would go in, and the room matching I had would allow more than the max number of people per room to join a room. So normally my limit is 8 people in a room, right? And so all of a sudden I pop into a room and it had 40 people in it. So it was laggy, it was unplayable, it was chaos, right? So I just watched my stats go up. But one of the most exciting things about my game at that point was real-time chat, right? You go into a room and people are going nuts, having fun.
yeah,
And the way I had to throttle my bandwidth was I put in a push-to-talk switch for audio. I didn't leave the channels fully open. And
that will probably be something that we should probably do, because anything to cut down on traffic usage at all is really beneficial to any game, really. And maybe it could be a setting, maybe not, but if we can cut down, then that would be great.
I had to do it because I was looking at a giant server bill, and I just was not prepared to deal with it. So, and what I found was, I lost a lot of players. A lot of the fun is voice, and push to talk isn't great, and it changed the feeling of game. If you popped into a room with 8 people without push to talk, it's chaos. People are going nuts and having fun. If you put push to talk in, people are reluctant to begin talking. right? And
Yeah.
it changes the room, and my numbers dropped, and I just had to deal with it until I got IAP in. Once I had in-app purchase, I was able to disable push to talk, and I could cover my server and people could talk, and the sort of the fun came back. And I do have that on a Switch. I use PlayFab as my back end. Do you have any back end on this thing?
I'm not sure
I,
100%.
a backend would be a website where you can control various things about the game. Like I use PlayFab, so I can go in and I can see number of logins in real time. I can change like app settings in real time. So if I want to up my user limit from 8 people to a room to 10 people a room, I go to a website and put in 10 and hit save, and boom, it's updated. So I have certain features like push to talk. I have that on a flag. So if I'm blowing through bandwidth, I can put on push to talk and slow things down without shutting the game down, right?
Yeah.
And
We don't have anything like that, and we probably should look into it probably, so then we can control things better.
Yeah, PlayFab's pretty amazing. I use it as well.
You do.
Yeah.
And I mean, before I had PlayFab, I just had some cheap hosting, and I put a JSON file up. I put a text file on a web server, and when the game starts up, it goes and looks for those settings, whatever parameters you have or flags, and that's an easy way. It's it doesn't give you granular control, but it's a way to turn things on and off quickly, and so you got to have that sort of management to your game, and that'll help you. It'll help you understand what's going on in the game right now, and it'll help you control things, right?
Yeah.
So you may want to consider that, right?
Oh, I really need to.
Yeah. All right, Squirmy. What else do we want to know here? That's a fascinating story and a horrible story.
It is. I guess. Okay, so like if there was if you had one bit of advice for a new developer coming into the scene that never created a game before and they were going to create a game, what would be that one piece of advice you'd give them?
Do something original. I think originality is actually something that I should probably take into account a lot more, and originality can set yourself apart from everyone else, and that's something I need to do more of, and that's what I'm trying to do with the revamp. And I have been called out on originality many times, and from that from now I'm trying to keep it as original from other Ge0rge games and just other VR games as best as I can. And I feel like everyone else should definitely do something original if they're going to make a game.
That's really strong advice. That's an important message. The way I think of it is, don't worry about being better, worry about being different. Right?
Yeah.
It's like
100%.
And that's hard and that's hard to do when you're starting out too, because whenever you're learning, you're learning off of things that's already there, so you're kind of going off of that.
I definitely think that other games can set a standard that you need to meet, and other people see it as like, oh, you're just copying them, but they've set a new standard to like how good like mechanics are or like just new features in general. It's a new standard and a new thing that everyone should meet to, and everyone should definitely meet those standards before adding anything new to the game, because if the quality isn't as good as those other games, then people would rather play the other games than your one.
Right. Now let's be clear here. Lemming has released that movement code, and he's been very vocal about the idea of other people using this locomotion system. He's all for it. It's an improvement over teleportation or sliding around. And it's a great implementation, but he put it out there for a reason. He wanted people to use it, right? So, and he wants to move VR forward, right? And this is one step. I also think when you learn to do something, this is your first game, when you learn to do something, when you learn to play guitar, you don't automatically start writing your own songs. You learn
Yeah.
Beatles tunes and you learn Chuck Berry, and you start with the classics, and then at some point you get good enough to improvise and make your own mark in the world. But you can't be that. You can't get to be that craftsman on day one, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I just forget just that exactly. Everyone needs to start somewhere, and everyone just needs to keep going and keep getting better at what they're doing. And obviously, originality is key with all of it, and everyone should just definitely try and do something, but start somewhere with it.
Yeah. You know what? For a 14-year-old, that is fantastic advice. That I'm familiar with that advice, but I'm paying attention to it. That's well said. It's really important, and I'm gonna try to remember that. The next time I see games, I'm gonna clone that guy. Let's that's great advice. I'm gonna keep being different, right?
Yeah.
Because there's nobody like me, and there's nobody like you. Ge0rge, it's a fascinating story, and I hope it ends well for you here. I love the idea that you haven't backed down from it, and that this reinvention is, maybe that's even a tagline for your game. It's Monkey Mischief reinvention, or that's a great event. I think you're going to have a lot of people in your corner. If you look at games like No Man's Sky, right?
Mm.
A lot of hype came up, some disappointment, but that team didn't walk away from it. They went back to it, and they polished that into a gem, right?
Mm.
So, I mean, I want to see the update, and I'm looking forward to what you do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Same, yeah. I think as long as you learn from your mistakes and implement on improvement, then you'll be golden, man.
Yeah, watch those server bills, dude. Jeez.
Yeah.
How are your parents doing now? Are they okay? Is mom okay?
Yeah, they I think both my parents are alright, and they're obviously trying to help me be
Yeah.
the best I can with all the financial stuff.
And that's
Yeah.
awesome that they're still supporting you even after all that, So that's good.
Yeah.
Some,
Are they?
I know some parents would be like, "Nah, you're done."
Yeah, right.
I'm
Exactly.
surprised I wasn't kicked out.
Yeah, right. I mean, have your parents sat you down and said, "Look, we're proud of you"?
Don't think so yet, but they I can tell that they are proud
Yeah.
of everything that I do.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. That's thanks for joining us, and certainly we'd love to hear any updates. When you're ready for that reinvention, we'd love to talk to you again, and maybe we can showcase some footage and hear what's going on and hear more about the team.
Thank you for letting me come here to talk about my story.
All right.